It was a chilled January night in Manassas, Virginia, when the flashing red and blue lights shattered the stillness at the Regency Apartments. The call had come in just moments before, sending officers racing to the scene, their radios crackling with urgency. An unresponsive child, a 4-year-old boy. Every second mattered. The apartment door swung open to reveal chaos. The dimly lit room was cluttered with furniture and strewn with toys, yet it was the small figure on the sofa that drew all attention. Officers moved quickly, their voices low but tense as they assessed the dire situation. Paramedics arrived almost immediately, a whirlwind of efficiency as they began life-saving procedures on the boy, whose chest barely rose and fell. His skin was pale and taut over prominent bones, a silent testimony to the suffering endured within these walls. Detective Lisa Harper stepped back from the medics, her mind already piecing together what little she knew. There were whispers among neighbors about strange noises at night, screams quickly stifled, and children seldom seen outdoors. But nothing had prepared them for this. As paramedics rushed the boy to a nearby hospital, Detective Harper's gaze shifted to the apartment's other occupants. 2 women stood by, the grandmother and an aunt, their faces a mix of dread and defiance. Another young woman lurked in the shadows of the kitchen. Questions swirled in Harper's mind. How had it come to this? Who was responsible? As she glanced around, her eyes caught sight of a cell phone left carelessly on a table. A quick decision saw it slip into an evidence bag. Perhaps it held answers to questions no one wanted to ask aloud. Even as evidence was being collected, Harper's instincts told her there was more beneath the surface, a web of neglect and cruelty spun with chilling precision by those meant to protect. While officers canvassed for witnesses, Harper lingered at the threshold of a small bedroom. It was starkly furnished, a single bare mattress on the floor, wrapped in trash bags that crinkled ominously underfoot. Her stomach turned as she noticed thin strips of tape discarded nearby. Then came an unexpected sound, a muffled whimper breaking through the silence like a crack in glass. Harper turned sharply toward its source, a closet door slightly ajar. Slowly opening it revealed not just clothing but another pair of eyes staring back, wide and terrified. A little girl pressed against the wall, her face streaked with tears yet painfully quiet. Harper's heart clenched at what might have been missed had they not looked closer. This discovery changed everything. This child could be key to unraveling whatever horror had unfolded here. But just as she reached forward to offer reassurance, her phone buzzed insistently at her hip, news from the hospital. With one last glance at the girl now safely in an officer's care, Harper answered. The voice on the other end was grave. They couldn't save him. Silence stretched before continuing. And there's more. As she listened, comprehension dawned, a monstrous realization solidifying like ice water down her spine. What Detective Harper learned next would plunge them deeper into darkness than she ever imagined. Detective Lisa Harper stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. The words echoed in her mind, chilling and relentless. They couldn't save him. But it was the following revelation that struck deeper. There were signs of this abuse going back months, perhaps even longer. This wasn't a sudden act of cruelty. It was systematic, deliberate. Still reeling from the news, Harper turned her attention back to the apartment. A place now eerily quiet, except for the muffled voices of officers and the occasional crackle of a police radio. She glanced at the small girl being gently led out by a fellow officer, her wide eyes still full of fear. Harper knew she had to remain composed for this child who had seen too much horror. The cell phone she had bagged earlier was now in the hands of a forensic technician, its secrets soon to be laid bare. Harper watched as they began extracting data, hoping desperately for any clue that would illuminate the darkness surrounding this case. Each ping from the computer felt like another heartbeat in a room thick with tension. Suddenly, one message caught her eye, a thread between Rebecca Romero and Shania Dilda, filled with chilling casualness about their actions. He got out again, one message read. Tape wasn't enough. It was accompanied by a blurry photo that made Harper's blood run cold, the boy swathed in plastic like some discarded parcel. Harper's mind raced. How could they have carried on with such disregard? Her thoughts were interrupted by Officer Mike Sanchez, who approached with new information. "We've got neighbors willing to talk now," he said. "They were scared before, but seeing us here, I think they're ready." Together, they moved down the hallway, knocking gently on doors. Each open door revealed another piece of the puzzle. Whispers of late-night screams, of lights flickering ominously at odd hours in the apartment windows. One neighbor hesitated before revealing she had seen Romero dragging heavy trash bags out at night. "Thought it was just garbage," she murmured, eyes downcast as if ashamed. Harper nodded grimly, filing away each detail. These fragments painted a grim picture, but were crucial to understanding the full extent of what these children endured. As Harper returned to her team, a new report came in from Child Protective Services about the other children removed from the home. The 5-year-old girl had spoken quietly about things she'd seen, her words simple yet piercingly clear in their horror. She said her brother was often made invisible, Harper relayed to Sanchez, wrapped up so he couldn't move or speak. The weight of those words settled heavily on them both. Just as Harper began piecing these insights together with her team, another officer rushed over with urgent news. There were more messages uncovered on the phone, this time hinting at an even deeper conspiracy within the family. "They're talking about someone else," he said breathlessly. Someone referred to only as the overseer. Harper's heart skipped a beat at this new development. Could there be someone else behind these atrocities? Someone orchestrating from behind the scenes? As dusk began to fall outside the Regency Apartments once more, Harper knew this story was far from over. With each new discovery came more questions than answers, leading them into even darker waters, yet uncharted. Detective Harper's mind was still reeling from the mention of the overseer as she stood amidst the dim, cluttered confines of the Regency Apartments. Each new revelation felt like a tightening noose around the mystery. Who could this shadowy figure be? A mastermind orchestrating these horrors from afar. The phone, once just a piece of evidence, now buzzed with sinister life as forensic technicians worked tirelessly, extracting data that laid bare the twisted narrative unfolding between Romero and Dilda. Their messages were chillingly casual, each line another tile in a growing mosaic of malice. Harper reviewed the texts again, her eyes narrowing. "He got out again," Dilda had texted, followed by an image that turned Harper's stomach, a photo of the boy, wrapped and bound like some grotesque parcel. But it was the next message that caught her attention. One simple line, "The overseer won't be pleased." A chill swept over Harper. The text hinted at someone beyond Romero and Dilda, someone whose role was yet unknown but undeniably sinister. As she pieced together this dark puzzle, Harper knew she needed more than just evidence. She needed insight into the minds of these women. Nearby, Officer Sanchez was interviewing neighbors who had finally found their voices. Each whispered account added depth to the tapestry of abuse. A scream here, a shadowy figure there, and yet no one had connected these dots until it was too late. "Think they were scared," Sanchez said grimly as he joined Harper. "Scared of what they might see if they looked too closely." Harper nodded, her eyes scanning the dim hallway where secrets clung to every shadow. "Fear can be a powerful blinder," she murmured. As dusk settled outside, casting long shadows that crept through the apartment's narrow spaces, another officer approached with urgency in his stride. "We've got something," he said breathlessly. He handed Harper a new set of messages, these ones darker still. They spoke cryptically about meetings when the moon is right and referenced places unfamiliar to her but ominous in their vagueness. Code? Harper wondered aloud, her mind racing through possibilities. "Could be," Sanchez replied, leaning over her shoulder. "Or instructions." Harper's heart thudded as she realized they might be looking at something far larger than they'd anticipated. A network, perhaps, intricate and hidden from view. "We need to find out who the overseer is," Harper said, determination hardening her voice, "before any more children suffer." Just then, a call came through from Child Protective Services. The 5-year-old girl had spoken again, this time about a place where bad things happened, words that hung heavy with unspoken dread. As Harper processed this new information, her phone buzzed once more. Another message unearthed from Romero's phone. The overseer's not happy about last night's mess. It ended with an address not far from where they stood. Harper's pulse quickened. This could be their lead. But as she prepared to move out with her team, a question lingered. Who would they find waiting for them at that address? And would it truly lead them to the overseer or deeper into the web? With no time to waste and every possibility tinged with danger, Harper stepped into the darkening night, each step echoing with the weight of unanswered questions and looming threats, yet unseen. Detective Lisa Harper felt the weight of urgency as she and her team prepared to act on the address unearthed from Romero's phone. The ominous reference to the overseer hung over their heads like a dark cloud, pushing her to work faster, to dig deeper into this labyrinthine conspiracy. As they approached the address, a nondescript house tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, Harper couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of a significant discovery. The house looked ordinary, but she knew better than to trust appearances. This was it, the place where bad things happened, as described by the traumatized 5-year-old. Joining Harper was Officer Sanchez, his presence a steadying force as they breached the front door with practiced precision. The interior was dimly lit, shadows pooling in corners and stretching across the floor. It was eerily silent, save for the creaking of floorboards underfoot. Harper's eyes scanned the space, falling on a series of photographs pinned to a corkboard in the living room. Each image depicted children in various states of distress, haunting evidence that this was indeed a nexus of abuse. Her gut churned with anger and determination. In the adjacent room, Sanchez discovered a cache of electronic devices, laptops, phones, tablets, all potential goldmines of information. Harper joined him, her mind racing at the possibilities. If the overseer was orchestrating these horrors remotely, this could be their chance to trace them back. Suddenly, Harper's phone buzzed with an incoming call from the precinct. It was news that Rebecca Romero had been taken into custody, along with Shania Dilda and Kemelin Wade. Their arrests had unfolded like dominoes, falling swiftly into place. "We got them," Harper relayed to Sanchez with a mix of relief and resolve. But even as she said it, she knew they were only scraping the surface of something much darker. With renewed focus, Harper dove into examining the devices they found. Each click and swipe brought them closer to understanding how deep this conspiracy ran. Amongst the files was a chilling document, a spreadsheet listing names, dates, and locations that hinted at an organized network trafficking in fear and control. As Harper processed this sinister revelation, another message popped up on one of the screens. The overseer is displeased with last night's chaos. It was signed with a name, an elusive figure known only as Marcellus. A shiver ran down her spine. They finally had something concrete. The room seemed to close in around her as Harper realized that Marcellus could be their key to unraveling everything. But would they find him before he vanished back into the shadows? Outside, night had fully descended over Manassas, casting an even darker hue over an already grim scene. With each passing minute, Harper felt time slipping away, each second crucial in their race against an unseen enemy. With suspects in custody and new leads emerging from every angle, Harper knew Chapter 5 would be pivotal. They needed answers, and fast, to prevent further tragedy. As she stepped back into the biting cold night air outside the house, determination burned in her chest like a beacon against the encroaching darkness. The story wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. Detective Lisa Harper knew the stakes were high as she stepped out into the cold night air, the weight of the recent discoveries pressing heavily on her shoulders. The address from Romero's phone had led them to a grim scene, a nexus of abuse that confirmed their worst fears. But with Romero, Dilda, and Wade now in custody, Harper hoped they were closing in on the elusive figure known only as Marcellus, believed to be the overseer. Back at the precinct, Harper and Officer Sanchez dove into the electronic evidence they had recovered from the house. Each device held potential clues, and they worked tirelessly to piece together the fragments of a sinister network. The spreadsheet of names and locations suggested a larger operation, one that extended its dark tendrils far beyond the immediate horrors they had uncovered. As they sifted through files and messages, Harper's phone buzzed with a call from Child Protective Services. The 5-year-old girl, still recovering from her traumatic ordeal, had provided another piece of the puzzle: a description of a man who visited the apartment occasionally, always at night. Her words painted an unsettling picture. "He was always whispering to Nana," she said quietly. Harper felt a chill. This could be Marcellus, the shadowy overseer, pulling strings from behind the curtain. With this new lead, Harper instructed her team to dig deeper into any connections between Romero's family and known associates in criminal databases. Days stretched into nights as Harper pursued every lead with relentless determination. The tension in the precinct was palpable, each officer driven by the desire for justice for the young boy who had suffered so much. Finally, a breakthrough came when forensic analysis uncovered a series of encrypted communications linked to Marcellus. Hidden within these messages were instructions for handling situations discreetly, a chilling testament to calculated cruelty. The final piece fell into place when surveillance footage from a nearby ATM caught a man matching Marcellus's description withdrawing large sums of cash, the same man seen visiting the Regency Apartments on several occasions. Upon confirming his identity as Marcus Eldridge, a local businessman with no prior criminal record, Harper felt a sense of vindication mixed with disbelief. Eldridge had carefully crafted an image of respectability while orchestrating unspeakable acts from the shadows. With enough evidence in hand, Harper and her team moved swiftly to arrest Eldridge before he could slip away. The raid was swift and decisive. Eldridge was taken into custody without incident, his facade finally shattered under the weight of his crimes. In the aftermath, as Harper watched Eldridge being led away in handcuffs, she felt a profound sense of relief, tempered by lingering questions. How many more Marcelluses were out there? How deep did this network run? As she returned to her office, Harper reviewed her notes one last time. While justice had been served for now, she knew that vigilance would be necessary to prevent further tragedies like this one. There would always be more work to do, more darkness to illuminate. For Detective Lisa Harper and her team, this was not an end, but rather another beginning, a commitment to seeking justice wherever shadows lurked.